What is it?
And chicken breast.
I'm trying to get another copy. Do we make this? Okay, and there are no.
He's going everything is locked, but if you can signs like that, both sides, and then you make it.
Yes,
sir.
But make sure I get them up.
No, don't make letters. Get overwhelmed like some
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I know. Good. Good. You want a stop sign on every corner. Okay. First stop sign ahead, and then stop sign. Here you go. All right. So we got snow again tomorrow.
We were.
Hello, Angela. No problem. We'll get you that notice. I think I have Kevin's.
Did you see your phone number?
They're going to be very popular. I just think
Yeah, we'll pick up.
Is that your number on this pen? Okay.
Hey,
Bob.
Wait.
Meh. 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 Now he's funny as all. Okay, so I got a call from today. Rob Mancha. Is there a drainage district for that or just water? No, no.
So what I'll do is I'll
Myers Corner.
of the stuff that I told you, in your phone first, and then you guys can go in and you don't.
He's already in sewer? Now, what was the it's just for like
20%.
Here. Here.
Here, everyone please rise for a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Everyone please be seated. Okay, the next item will be the agenda. Whether or not there's any additional items from the board, Angela decided to pass on that thing right now, so we don't even have to worry about that, based on my discussion.
Okay.
So, if none, then I'd like to move to adopt the agenda.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? The motion passed. Yeah, the next item is that we will move into the public portion of the meeting, and this is where the attendees will discuss if they have any issues or concerns or any comments with respect to the items on the agenda, the resolutions and proposed items on the agenda?
I'll move it.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? And during this time, it's only for town residents to come up and to identify your name and your location within the town, and then address the board with any concerns that you, or comments or questions that you may have.
On agenda items.
On the agenda
Agenda
items,
items.
that's correct.
This was the old agenda.
I was going to say, seeing none, I'll make a motion to close the public portion.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Okay, okay, I'll do that next then. Okay. Then let's acknowledge the minutes from the last meeting.
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions?
No.
Okay, motion passed. Thank you, Mr. Clark. If there's anyone here right now, we have some interviews later on for one of our open positions. Please see Sandra in the back waving her hand, and then she'll help manage that when we are getting to that particular point at that process. Okay, so we have the public portion closed. So the next item is reports and proposals for consideration. Okay, the first item is we have had retained last year and authorized that had a budget for our outside consultants to do a study. This was Frederick Clark with respect to Kent Road traffic and safety. This was as a result of the request of a number of our residents and supported by our councilman for that ward. So, Mr. Palante, why don't you come up and give everyone a summary of it.
All right, I have boards and easels. Should I set it up somewhere?
Yeah, Joey, maybe you can help him do that if you don't mind.
I don't
Set
mind.
it up while you can start introducing it.
Any way you would like.
Sorry, we're still not set up for modern audio visual, but we're working on that actually.
What's that?
Good evening.
Good evening, Mike Galante, Frederick Clark Associates. We are the town's planning and traffic consultants, actually for many years. I've been involved with the town as far as traffic aspects of this. And we were asked specifically last summer to look at Kent Road for not its entire length, but a section of road near the intersection of Central Avenue. And we basically looked at that intersection, the other intersections nearby, and the curves, if you will, around the lake itself. And what we did is we did a lot
And
of...
that was for the entirety of Kent Road, right?
For the entirety, but we kind of focused in on that one section because that's where the concerns were of residents of Kent Road. And the concerns were, if I can just summarize, volume of traffic, safety, speeding, children walking, playing, and so on. So we looked at all those aspects, and what we did is we didn't do any traffic counts over the summer. We waited for schools reopened in the fall. We came back, did our traffic counts. We obtained accident data from the New York State Department of Transportation. Kind of looked at all the traffic control signing, pavement markings on the road itself, and prepared a report back to the town, which actually is from December of last year. And I'll just summarize that and give you our suggestions and findings on that. And I understand the concern of residents. They were looking at, well, there's too much speeding, you should put stop signs in, you should change the traffic control, you should do different things to, we call in the traffic profession, traffic calming. And while it's an important term, it's difficult to implement if something is not needed. And I say that because we don't take it lightly, but we looked at this road in great detail. Actually looked at this road many years for the town. But we looked at, and I'll just touch on, this is just some graphics from the report. The red dots include all the intersections just for reference. This is Myers Corners Road on the left side, if you will, and All Angels Hill Road on the right side. We looked at all the different intersections and focused on this area right here. And I'm just going to touch on graphics and not go through all the numbers on the graphics, but we installed machine counters at 2 locations. We report volumes on an hourly basis by direction and daily for a 7-day period, which means we obtain weekday counts and weekend counts, and we summarize. This graphic is just one location, and just for numbers, just to give you an idea of what's happening on Canton Road. This road has about 1,600 vehicles per day. on this road. Now, Kent Road, while yes, it's absolutely a residential road, it serves many single-family homes with individual driveways, is functioning more as a collector type of road, meaning local roads at the lower level access this road to provide access to the county routes that are, in this case, on either end. So as you go from a local road such as Central Avenue to Kent Road to Myers Corners Road, the volumes would typically increase as you get to the higher level roads. Obviously, eventually to Route 9, Route 376, those volumes are certainly much higher. So just big picture, anywhere from 1,400 to 1,600 vehicles on a daily basis, weekday and weekend, on an hourly basis during the peak hours, which the graphic would show the morning, for example, commuter peak and school peak, and again in the afternoon. They occur generally 7 to 8 o'clock in the morning, and again 5 to 6 in the p.m., typical commuter peak hours. There's a little blip, 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock, which would relate typically to school-related traffic, and we identified that. On an hourly basis, the volume of traffic, again, two-way volume in a 1 hour period, is about 120 to 140 vehicles on this road itself. Second step was we obtained, I'm not going to go over all the nitty-gritty details, but we looked at accident data for the entire road for a 3-year period, 2015 through 2017, which is the standard in any traffic study. We're looking at a 36-month, 3-year period. We identify the accidents by location. These are reported accidents by location, type of accident, roadway conditions, weather conditions, snow, rain, dry, daylight, evening, and so on, type of accident. And we summarize it in these tables, which would be table 1 and 2 in the traffic report itself. And what that says is you have a number of accidents at either end at the county route intersections, anywhere from 8 to 10 accidents at those intersections, the county route intersections. And then you look at the Kent Road, which is the entire length, 3-year period, we had a total of 8 accidents. And they were sporadic at certain intersections of what we call mid-block. Types of accidents are running off the road, hitting a fixed object, hitting a moving object, which typically would be a deer, or something where someone's avoiding hitting a moving object. And I hate to say it, but it's typically hitting a deer or not hitting a deer. We recorded all the accidents, we plotted them, and we put it in a format. And what the tables say is essentially there are no specific locations or intersections or roadway segments that come out as what we would consider high accident locations that need some further study or further evaluation. It didn't show that. We looked at, obviously, the traffic control, the stop signs, basically 3 intersections along that stretch that have stop signs. I felt it in at the county routes on either end. We looked at those operations. We looked at the curve warning signs that are standard. And I must say, known Washington for many, many years, you always have the up-to-date and appropriate traffic control signs, and I don't need to tell DPW that they have the right signs, but we agree with them as far as the type of sign, locations of sign, and certainly the condition of the signs, which I think is very important. Many places, I won't say many towns, but some towns, the signs are old, the reflective finish is not there, and you don't see the sign. That's not the case in Wappinger, and I commend the town for that for many, many, many years. Pavement markings were replaced and updated last fall, which is a standard process every so many years. You replace pavement markings. In the case of Kent Road, you have double yellow center line, you have stop bars, you have edge of pavement or shoulder lines. Some people now call them fog lines, which I've never heard before, but that's what the term is lately. And quite frankly, when it's foggy, it's nice to see where the edge of the road is. In essence, what we have found from this study and this evaluation and discussions with the town is we agree with the stop sign locations. We don't believe there's a need to change the stop signs to we would never meet the standards, but traffic signals, for example. We don't believe there's a need for crosswalks because the volume of pedestrian activity is not there. I'm not saying there are no pedestrians, but it's not there. Traffic calming measures, people say, well, I want a speed hump in front of my house. Until you put it in front of their house and it makes noise, we don't see the need for that. We recorded speeds on this road. The coastal speed is 30 miles per hour. There's some curve warning signs with lower speeds, which are standard and appropriate. The speeds we measured were anywhere from 34 to 35 miles per hour. And these were in sections that were not near stop signs. So we tried to get what we call a mid-block section of road. So it's not affected by someone approaching a stop sign and slowing down. So we recorded those speeds at a couple of locations, along with lots of visits during the day and even at night to look at things and conditions at night. At the end of the process, and what we've come up and determined is nothing should change. But we stress to the town that, you know, the answer often in many residential neighborhoods is we want stop signs, we want something to slow traffic down, we want different means to traffic calming. We don't recommend anything on Kent Road, and I say Kent Road, but we know the roads in town. They're very similar roads, you know, Brothers is a similar type of road and so on. Local roads that are collector type of roads. We don't believe sticking a stop sign on every corner is the answer to slowing traffic down. The manual that we use in the state of New York uses is it used to say you shall not use a stop sign to control or reduce speed. They've changed it many years to go to you should not. And I'm a strong believer, if you don't need a stop sign, and you install a stop sign for speeding or just, you know, volume coming out of a side street such as Central Avenue, if that stop sign is not needed, the motorists will not stop. They will learn that no one's coming out of the side road and they simply roll through the intersection. We all know that many people roll through intersections everywhere whether they're needed or not. We don't believe in installing stop signs that are simply not needed. So we caution the town not to do that as a general policy, if you will, on other town roads throughout the town. You have many, many, many roads. We're looking at Kent Road, but we've looked at other roads, knowing the areas in different conditions, and they're all essentially two-lane roads. We stress that you should not just, you know, respond to someone's complaint about speeding or safety by installing a stop sign. And we work for many communities, and we pretty much say the same thing everywhere. Don't put a stop sign in that's not needed. So at the end of the process, we say keep things the way they are. Now, I know some residents may disagree with that statement, but we follow the process we go through, and at the end of the process, we feel that what's there is appropriate. And I'll leave it at that. I can certainly answer questions you may have now or later.
No, I know we've dealt with some of these issues before. I think you had assisted me on speeding at 376. You were involved in that study as well.
That's right.
And I know how difficult it is not only to change speed limits, but also to determine that a stop sign is necessary. So I do appreciate your efforts on this. But I guess my question is that being the case that stop signs wouldn't be needed at these locations, is there anything you would recommend that could help?
On Kent Road or a similar road?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Honestly, no. Number one, I don't see a speeding issue. I don't see a safety issue. I do recommend some clearing of vegetation on corners. One of them is Central Avenue. There's some vegetation in the summertime would block your vision when you come out of Central Avenue. We've identified some of those. You know, when we try to change how a motorist drives to an intersection, you look at different things. This is a two-lane road, no shoulders. There's a shoulder line next to the edge of pavement. There's a center line. There are the appropriate curve warning signs that go to the curves in the road, and there are stop signs at 3 locations, essentially. In essence, does slow traffic down. We wouldn't necessarily be recommending stop signs if they weren't there, but no, there isn't really something beyond what's there today to address the concern of residents.
What about the locations that you said at those major intersections, the ones between Kent Road and Myers Corners and Kent Road and All Angels? I believe that's probably where you see the most activity, because I do notice there's congestion there from time to time. I don't know how that might be able to be addressed, but I do notice that.
Congestion on Kent Road?
Yeah, especially during times where the school, well, certainly by Myers Corners, that's more where I represent, when the schools are either coming in or getting out. The cars trying to get out of Kent Road, it gets very congested at times.
It's been like that for as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
And to answer that question, you know, it's a stop sign controlled intersection. The side road, in this case, Kent Road has the stop sign. The County Road has the right of way, if you will. Stop sign, yes, there's a delay during peak hours. The next step is, should it warrant or should you have a traffic signal there? That requires a study that says you need a certain level of traffic volume for 8 consecutive hours during the weekday condition. Meaning,
I don't think it meets that. I
you
agree.
don't have it.
Yeah, I don't
You need
think it meets
75
that.
cars every hour for 8 hours straight. We do a 12-hour count. It won't meet that criteria.
Understood.
Okay, so we look at that. We didn't include it here, but we looked at that based on the volume on Kent Road for the machine counts, and while you may have the volume on Myers Corner or Old Angels as far as the volume you need for a traffic signal, you don't have it on the side road.
Understood.
You have to have both.
Okay, got it.
Okay, absolutely.
A question,
Yes, sir.
the traffic that we're seeing on Kent Road, the 1,400 to 1,600 cars per day, where is that originating from?
It's a combination of two places. One is the residents coming from the side roads, coming out to Kent Road to go different directions. And in some cases, in this case, it's through traffic.
Okay.
Someone going from point A to point B and using Kent Road to avoid something. Absolutely.
Because I think the genesis of the stop signs on Kent Road, if I'm correct, and former Supervisor Smith is here, in the early 90s, when those stop signs were first put up, I believe they were put up to prevent people from cutting through All Angels Hill Road to Myers Corners Road. Back in those days, I was in high school, and I remember when they were put up, because I was doing that. I was cutting through, and I said, I'll never do that again. Now there's stop signs there. So I don't think they were put in for speed purposes back then. I think they were put in just to deter people cutting through, which I think that objective has been achieved. But I appreciate you looking at these different variables here. It's a common request from residents to look at their neighborhood and put a stop sign on every corner. And I've never really been an advocate of that, because I don't think that those people realize, especially the ones that live on the corner, that now they're going to hear cars stopping and going all day long on an unnecessary stop sign, which would create, more of a distraction, I would argue. But this is very interesting. I appreciate that.
There's a fair amount of detail in this report, actually.
I think so.
I guess this is something that it would be appropriate that we can have a copy at the clerk's office, if anybody wanted to review it.
Sure.
I would say we can make available, Mr. Paoloni, a copy of it. If you don't have one, then I can provide one, or Michael can provide an extra.
I mean, I wouldn't have an objection to a PDF being available for
Online,
yeah, because residents that live in those communities that feed into Kent Road may find some interest in this.
Yeah, I assume they would. Yeah.
Now
And I
this,
appreciate their comments and their concerns, and we all do.
now I noticed it was the Kent Road study, but I'm assuming it would have implications in many areas throughout the town also.
Yes, as I believe I mentioned towards the beginning of this presentation, Kent Road is a typical road in the town, in a way. It's a collector road. It accesses many local roads, the lower-level local roads, and you feed into Kent Road as a collector road. That's why we call it a collector. It's collecting traffic. It brings that traffic, in this case, the county routes on either end. So it is a function of roads, local collector, major roads, and so on, and minor arterials, lots of terminology. There are many roads in town that are similar to Kent Road. Absolutely. I hate to call it a typical road in town, but it's a typical road in town.
Another thing I'll mention for the benefit of the audience and those that are listening to TV is that we have been working very closely with the sheriff's office to try to get more visibility on the roads. And now that we have our 2 new patrol cars, in service, we had ordered last year, and finally are on service. We're working with the sheriff's deputies to get even a more robust, program. Based on our previous discussions, you thought that could be helpful for some of these, feeder roads.
Yeah, and it's easy for me to stand here and say more enforcement is the answer. But in some cases, some more visibility and enforcement is really the answer.
Yeah, because the volume has gone up on all the roads.
Sure.
And it's not going down.
That's correct.
And a lot of the roads are going to be seeing this as well.
Yeah, you see it in many places.
Exactly.
You're exactly right, yes. Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions from the?
No.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike.
Mr. Paoloni will make that available, and then PDF version will also be available.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, very good. Next item for discussion is kind of our annual report. I'd like to invite our grand justices, Justice Carl Wolfson and Heather Kitchen, to come up and give us a report on the courts of the past year and where you see things heading. We especially appreciate coming out of your schedule to come up here.
Well, because of the judicial canon of ethics, there's a limited amount of things that we can say. So my question is, our issue is, what are your questions? And we'll try and answer the questions that you have.
Okay.
Because our role really is not to talk about money, but we can at least answer limited questions.
Well, I'd say, start off, one of the things that, we've seen throughout the area, seems to be some decline on, fines, fees, but also hearings and what have you. So I was wondering how you look at, where we have been in the last year or the past couple of years, not from the financial revenue
Right,
point of
right.
view,
Well,
but from the
that-
safety in the town. That's
Exactly,
what I'm-
we can definitely answer that. So we had our chief clerk compile some data, and in 2018, the state police issued 4,000, roughly, 4,000 less tickets than they issued in 2017. So because of the decline in those tickets, and I can't answer a question as to why that's what's happened, but that's what's happened. Obviously, the revenue has gone down. We don't really have any control over how many tickets the state police issue. All we do is we listen to them appropriately, and obviously we fine what we deem to be appropriate at the time.
If you want to get an idea, revenue-wise, we had to put through some numbers, and it's approximately, revenue to the town equals approximately between $150 to $200 per ticket on average. So if you have 4,000 less tickets, at $200 a ticket, that's $800,000. If it's 150 a ticket, it's $600,000. It's not all at once. It moves out because while they issue the less tickets, the tickets are issued, days for appearance are given, people want adjournments, so it isn't
Right, so-
an automatic thing. It's gradually over time, and you're going to
Right,
see...
they may be issued in 1 year and disposed of the next year, so.
So you're going to see a continuing decline in revenue so long as the state police continue what they're doing.
Have you seen any corresponding change with respect to severity of other kinds, or if tickets are going down? I mean, if tickets are down, is anything going up?
Going up? No, I mean, let's see, penal law for you it's gone up, and for me it's gone up. Yeah, so the penal law cases have gone up a tad, but not a lot.
And, but, I've
100, maybe 100 cases between my calendar and Paul's calendar. So
more
that's
this year
not.
than last year.
Yeah, so that's not. That wouldn't necessarily be unusual. All the rest, the changes have been, I would say, minimal.
One or two cases.
Yeah, it's basically the same as it was in 2017.
What do you average in sense of arraignments or trials, or how active is that?
Yeah, that hasn't changed. That hasn't changed.
We still run somewhere between 60 and 75 cases per night, per judge.
Yeah. Some months it's higher because we only have one calendar, so some months we'll have maybe 100, which is always fun. But some months are a little less for whatever reason, like the summer months, things tend to cool off a little. So. But other than that, things are pretty steady. Yeah.
So looking at the courtroom itself, obviously it's 1985 originally, right? So here we are in 2019. If you could name the top 3 improvements you would like to see that we could facilitate within a capital plan in that area, what would they be?
But we had some very interesting discussions with the supervisor and with the engineer, and they proposed an enlargement of the facility, which
Would be nice.
it would be nice. It's almost, we almost violate or do violate the fire code.
Pretty much every
almost every
time.
Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday night.
It's a problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
Watch that, Sudeo's here, so she might write as well.
Yeah, we have people waiting in the hallway, et cetera, because there either aren't enough chairs or, yeah.
So square footage obviously would be a priority.
Correct.
From your perspective as a judge, from a safety perspective, what can we do to improve?
Well, we don't, we don't have a designated spot for prisoners.
Okay.
Yeah, we do.
What they do now.
We do now.
Oh, we do now, okay.
Yeah, we have the benches that we.
Okay, that must happen while I was on vacation.
So, okay, that's the
Huge.
that's the quote unquote holding cell?
Yes.
Okay.
Those two holding cells,
Right.
the sheriff's reported to us last time that they found it very, very helpful.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
increased the safety of the whole.
Right.
And thanks
Just
Steve
having like
Frazier for
11
installing
prisoners,
those.
Yes.
in the jury box, it's not a good plan. How many does the room hold?
There's 2 rooms, actually.
Oh, there's 2 rooms.
One for male and one for female. And
Fabulous.
Steve, what was the approximate per bench?
Probably 12 total.
Yeah.
So,
3 benches.
so now,
That should be enough, because normally we have anywhere from 5 to 10, maybe a little more.
Because we had talked with Cheryl about that, and so that, and I talked with the other, the officers, court officers, and so that's what they thought.
Perfect.
so just for those that, I'm not here to see that, as those that are in custody come into our building, they are then staged in that area prior to their case?
They used to sit in the jury box, now they go into,
Okay,
call it a holding room, and then they brought out one of them.
so that's improved the security.
That just happened.
Okay,
I haven't had it yet.
I think the first time was in January, the first time it was.
okay, all right, so that's a good
And
improvement.
then, Bill, they can come in through a back door
Right.
and put it in
Correct. Yeah, we have a
a
back
door,
door.
secure steel
Yeah.
door there, and you can put a little curtain across the hall so nobody sees them coming in.
Okay, all right, so that would be another question, if there's a way we can secure the corridor a little bit better, so that when there are those in custody being transferred from the holding area into the courtroom, so that corridor is not exposed and open, if there's a way we can look
And
at
so
it.
the plan is that we would just have a screen go across, because it's a short distance
Yeah.
from the holding room, which was the old board room
Right.
and historian room.
Okay.
So it's very short distance, so the deputies and the state troopers can bring them in from the outside, put them in there, lock them down.
Okay.
And then just move it in. Right, Steve? I think that's the idea.
And that's fine, because we also have OCA officials here,
Okay.
guards, and they're used to, even in Family Court Supreme, there's a hallway that they have to take them, so they're used to the
Okay.
protocol, they know what they have to do, they have to keep everybody away, so it's not an issue. They're well trained, so that's not a problem.
And the first time they used it, we notified the sheriff that we were going to have it, and they brought an extra deputy, so they stationed, to answer your question, they do station a deputy in the hall, probably behind that curtain.
Right.
Okay.
So that when the prisoner moves from the holding cell into the courtroom, there's an armed deputy.
Okay,
And we reinforce the wall with plywood, thick plywood, so if they try to knock it or
Yeah,
knock their head
yeah,
or what
yeah.
have you, it's.
yeah, my fear has always been, as a layperson looking from the outside in, my fear has been if, God forbid, one of those in custody broke free into the general seating area of the courtroom. So I think that's solving that issue. Are they shackled when they're in the courtroom?
They're shackled
They're all
ankles and
shackled
hands.
together, and
They
then
are.
they take them off one at a time, and then
Okay.
shackle them.
Yeah.
Are there any other areas of vulnerability that you know of we should be addressing?
No,
Okay.
I don't think so.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? No one? Longer. Okay, thank you very much for coming. Yeah, appreciate
Thank you
it.
very much.
Happy to be here.
Thank you for your service to the family. I'll show you after.
Just don't lock me in.
Yeah, I'll lock you in.
Don't lock me in there.
So you don't have to-
We'll see you later.
Next, we're going to have Jessica to come up, talk about Recreation Department. Also, we have our, senior, committee, headed by our supervisor, former supervisor Connie, and to talk about the senior program. We have actually the 501c3 folks here to talk specifically about seniors, and Jessica is going to talk about the overall high level what we're doing. Hopefully, we don't have to read this all.
I was going to say, no, do not be
It was
afraid.
enough to read the historian's report in total, so,
Yeah, let's not do
Don't be
that.
afraid, most of what's in that packet is for you to read at a
yes,
later date.
please give us a high level, okay?
Yes,
and,
yes.
Insert your words.
Yes. So,
But, want to invite some of our distinguished ladies to come up here, too.
I'm going to cover
One
a
thing
couple of
first?
senior
Okay,
center
okay.
things, and then the ladies are going to come on up.
Okay.
So, one of the things that's in your packet here is the senior center curriculum for the entire year, which includes, it's color-coded, everything that we're doing. The only two things that aren't in there, because they still have to be confirmed, are Father's Day and Mother's Day luncheons. So this is, for you all to read at your leisure. And I also want to thank everybody, because everybody got on the schedule for the Tuesday speaker series. So everybody's going to be
So
there, so that's
for our
great.
board members, the Tuesday speaker series is something I asked Jessica to put into place, which has actually been quite successful. We're getting a lot more people to attend, right? And
Yes.
then we just had amazing turnout for the technology. session that
good.
was held, including in the evening. There was an evening session.
And that
The room was nearly full.
That was one of the most exciting things, because something that I've always been very interested in, and logistically trying to figure out how we're going to do it, is making use of some of the spaces that we have in the evening. So we held a class in the evening, had 40 people here, even though seniors tend to prefer activities more in the day. So that's a new and interesting trend in what we're doing. Other than giving you guys the curriculum for the senior center to look over at a later time, that's all I have on the senior center. I'll jump back in at recreation, but I wanted to invite our group.
Just to point out, I believe you've also included an opportunity for each of the councilmen and women to speak at the
Yes,
senior.
that's what I was saying. Everybody got on the
So we're
calendar.
all, you're all there.
Everybody's on there. Everybody confirmed, and that's it.
Yep. Go ahead.
All right. Come on up, folks.
So, I'll just preface it, we, as you recall, we agreed, approved, and then was created a 501c3 to help the seniors with the donations and, generation of income, and also for some trips that some locations that the town can't support.
Okay.
And so then that was done, Steve Diamond had prepared that, and then they created a committee, and Supervisor Smith has been leading the charge, and they, communicate with me regularly too on that, and Bob's been involved in some of that. So I asked them to kind of give us a report, and they had some questions and concerns too that I wanted to address.
I'm going to kind of let you know what our plans are for the year, the coming year. Then the others are going to do other things. We plan on doing bus trips, a dinner theater. We're going to do, we were going to do a 5K run, but I was going to do that, but it's looking to me like it's much too big for me to do. But I've got to keep looking at it until I find out for sure. We are also, our first fundraiser is May 19th, and that's at Outback. We'll be putting signs like this around town. This is our flyer. The tickets are $22, and I'll be visiting all of you.
She already hooked me in.
Poor Joey, there he is. I said, hello, Joey, you want to buy a ticket? Bye. Anyway, so, and we plan on doing all those things like one a month. Unless we get a bunch of walls built in front of us, which we seem to do on a regular basis, but we'll handle it. So now I'm going to have Rhonda.
Rhoda.
Oh, I'm sorry, I do that to her all the time. Rhoda.
Okay. I'm Rhoda Sussman. Jessica had started something, I picked it up on the internet about bus trips to casinos. But I am friendly with the owner of JTR Robert because I ran senior trips in Yorktown and I got a better price. So, right, Jessica?
I can't imagine what that phone call was like, but I would have loved to have been. Congratulations.
Yeah. Okay. So, this is our schedule. April 26th, we're going to Resorts World Catskills, and the cost is going to be $35. On July 26th, we're going to the Sands in Pennsylvania, and the cost is $40. August 30th, we're going to Empire Casino in Yonkers, and the cost is $30.
Very good.
So remind me of the age that the minimum, lowest age you can participate. I was just wondering if.
21. 21. The casinos don't. don't let anyone in under the age of 21. That's the gaming rule.
I was thinking they were going to say 60 or something.
No. So anyone in the town of Waffen, just because it is a fundraiser, they can attend.
Is there a maximum number of attendees that you can do?
Exactly, the bus holds 56.
Okay.
And we won't restrict it, because the more we get in, the more money we make for our endeavor.
Great.
Anyone have questions?
Is sign up for that online, Jessica, or how are you handling
Jessica's gonna
that?
handle it.
The information is available online, but signups have to be done in person because the association cannot accept credit cards. Any
Right.
credit cards that are done online
Yeah, that
will
makes
bring
sense.
to the town. So-
Great.
Plus, we don't want to commingle.
Right.
No.
Great.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
All right. I have one question that Pam is in my ear. I've asked several times about insurance. Are we covered by insurance, and what are we covered for? I know what I used to do.
I told them they asked you to, so.
Okay.
Not to put you on the spot, but.
I know when I used to do Community Day, we always got a rider every year for that day.
I mean, the activities, you mean for the bus trip or for?
Well, actually, I think I mean for us.
501c3.
I'll
for the
check
members of
the
the
carrier,
committee.
yeah. I mean,
So if there's a sanctioned group operating within the town hall, in the senior center, obviously, I would imagine that they're covered.
Right.
But my concern would be when you're off-site or off-property.
that would, they're,
You don't want to win all that money at the casino and then,
that would typically, as far as liability,
Yeah.
it would,
One of,
I don't think. Yeah, the liability would be covered.
Yeah.
I don't think they'd be covered with respect to, theft of funds or anything like that.
Right.
Can you,
But
could
as far
you
as- Sure, we'll
write
get.
something up
Yep.
and give it to us?
So I think what's important also, though, for the group is to continue this ongoing communication so that we're aware of every one of your activities. I think that would probably be one of the requirements if you have an off-site activity that you're doing as a group. In order for it to be fully sanctioned by the town, I think we would need to make sure that we have a record that that event is going on, which is exactly what you're doing.
yeah.
And that makes me feel more comfortable because then we know ahead of time, okay, on April 19th, we know we have 56 of our residents that are participating at Resorts World Casino. It's good for us to know that and have that situational awareness. God forbid, something happens, a big snowstorm happens while you're up there, and we have to try to make sure that you got home safe. We want to make sure that we understand that where you are.
Okay. I think,
And
just,
Does that mean that we should be coming, does that mean we should be coming to the board every time we have a fundraising idea or something organized, or is there a liaison
No,
within the
Yeah.
town that we can work through?
If there's a
Is it
schedule
Jessica
that we
or-
can see and we're aware of, at least a monthly basis,
Yeah.
the month
Right.
before.
Sure.
If
Certainly.
something's going on in July, let us know by at least the beginning of June.
And you talk with me regularly,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I could.
But this way we all know, we know where to look, if it's updated on the website, we will go and see that.
And yeah,
what we tried to do tonight.
yeah, and I'd also say that as liaison to recreation, if you want to contact me directly, if I can help you with anything, let me know. If you want, I'll give you my card.
But you know what I think is great, though? Here it is January, and you folks are coming here before the town board. You're giving us a rundown of what you have planned, what you want to do. I think that's great for once a year. I don't think it's necessary to come more than once a year because you have ongoing
Personal
communication with the
summary.
supervisor.
This
I
is
think
the
it's good
best
that we
way to
know
reach me
what you're doing. I think that's
as
great.
quickly as
So
possible.
good luck. I hope I can join
And
you on
give one
something.
to Connie, too.
We'll call you.
oh, he'll find.
Oh, I'll be there. Don't worry. I'll be at Outback. I'll be there.
So, now that they've gone through a little bit of the events that they're going to be holding, it's important to know that a lot of the events that are listed in the senior center curriculum are a partnership with the
Sure.
association.
Of course.
So something like Valentine's Day, where we choose a restaurant and the cost, I'll use round numbers, say maybe $30 a head, okay? we're not charging $30 a head for it. We charge, say, $15, and the association picks up the rest. So that's a lot of what these fundraising activities are going towards, is being able to keep things manageable, low cost for the seniors in the community. So when you look through a lot of those events that are in the curriculum that I gave you, a lot of them are coming with partial support of this committee.
Yeah, we voted this morning on the Valentine's Day.
Yes, they did. They approved me for Valentine's Day.
But
So that
also,
was
but also the discount is only for members of the association.
Correct.
correct. Yes.
Yeah, so just make sure that you document that on the flyers, and that will give people an incentive to be part of your organization.
Yeah, I'll show you the flyer later.
I believe you.
And that's a particular interest to us, because we're very concerned, since we are doing fundraising, that we can work with somebody that can give us the information on what funds are available on the other side.
Sure.
So that we can work in tandem with those efforts to get the seniors as much as we can, cost effectively obtain for them.
Sure.
And so I know that there's some positions that were discussed in recreation/senior. We would, I particular, and I think the rest of our team is sort of interested in, again, having a person that's a liaison, especially for the senior center and the seniors in the community, because I think that's an important thing to have that sort of, at least a little bit more dotted line from a lot of the youth-based type of activities that we do in the recreation venue today.
And I could, and I was going to say, I think you're making great strides towards making that possible. So I definitely appreciate your initiative and the fact that you've gone so far as to work this out and come here tonight and explain it to us. So we certainly are very supportive. If there's anything that I can do personally, I'm sure the rest of the board as well, to help you in this endeavor, please let us know, because we are interested in the seniors just as much as we are in the youth, and we want to make sure that both of you are taken care of in our town. So thank you.
I think it's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yes, and
job.
and that's how we want to approach it, and that's why we were asking some of these questions, so.
Yep.
Okay.
There's only
Thank
one
you.
person up there that's lucky, and that's Johnson, is it?
Yeah, Bob.
I don't have your
Bob.
phone number.
I have my tickets, I'll ask.
Give it to you later.
Well, you can call me twice, Connie, to make up for it.
And she knows where my office
Yeah,
is.
exactly.
But no, we thank you very much. It's been exciting, and I see, as all the council members have said, a lot of great progress in it, and I'm excited because they're really working together on
These
this.
people work hard, they
Yeah.
do.
Hey, why don't you just
Introduce 'em.
introduce everybody for the benefit, deal with them, but for the benefit of the other board members that don't know, or they can introduce themselves.
Introduce yourself.
Yeah.
I'm Connie Smith. I live in Wappinger on 376.
I'm Rhoda Sussman.
That treasurer.
I'm the treasurer, and I live in Toll Brothers off All Angel Hill Road. And this is my husband, Frank Adler.
I'm not allowed to speak.
You know the feeling.
They have a very interesting dynamic in the meeting.
I can relate.
Pam Herbst, Vice President, and I live in Quiet Acres area.
I'm not going to say your
Go ahead,
last
say your
name.
name.
Christina Kokias Manos, and I also live in Quiet Acres.
One more comment I'd like to make, though. We put together the 501, and we also applied to the state and received a tax exempt status from the state.
Oh, good.
Without legal counsel, so
Great.
we were able to do that within.
You're good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And my name is Nancy Lo Cicero, and I'm not sure, I think I'm just chief bottle washer. I think that's what I do. And I'm the person
You're
when
a
the time
values
comes.
member. You know, you get those letters, you're a valued member.
Thank you.
Thank you very much again. We appreciate it, okay? Jessica, did you have a couple more things or?
Not with the seniors, we're jumping to rec.
A few minutes.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Again, the majority of this is for you guys to read at your leisure, but the top correspondence on there is just a monthly December report. Read that at your own time, but something that I'd like to talk about is you'll see a memo in there, subject 2018 financial review. And I think that is one of the prime things that we should be looking at, because it runs through all of the expenditure for the recreation programs for 2018. So the athletic programs were all self-funding. Summer camp, we took a little bit of a loss on, less than we have in some other years.
That's the key. It's been improved.
Yeah. It did go up a little bit from last year, but those are some of those things that we're dealing with the minimum wage increases that is going to be the prime focus of what I wanted to talk about tonight. This, if you look at it, this is just me showing off our new software program and how nicely it reports out the expenses for the programs that we're running. We have all of the bills in for the summer concert series for this year, and it just puts it together in a beautiful spreadsheet. So that's just a little bit of bragging, to be honest. It looks very good.
Before I forget it, I wanted to mention to the board, since you mentioned software and the page, from the town website point of view, we're making some good progress. We're going to have another briefing this week with respect to kind of their first schematic. They've interviewed everybody in the town hall about what are the needs and wants. So we have that, and then in another, I think, 2 weeks, we'll have another layout. So there's good progress being made, and I'm hopeful within the next 2 months we'll have I think an alpha, sites for all of you to also look at and start getting some comments. So we're making progress there. Good. And that will then, Jessica's site or in the highway departments over that will all be integrated.
A memo that you guys got a while back, but I just wanted to refresh your memory on the number. At Robinson Lane, we took in 2018, $10,175, which is a 5-year high for us at that facility. That memo came out back in December, but since we're talking the income of these programs, I feel like it's worth mentioning again. In the recreation curriculum, the only thing that would really be of interest at this exact moment would be if you flip to where the yellow tab is, it has the costing for all of the events. All right. It falls in line. You'll see the only thing that's not on there is Community Day, but that's a big discussion to have independent of all of these other events. I'm looking that over. Any questions on those? No, it's all laid out pretty clearly, and all of this falls within the budget for 2018.
Okay.
All right.
One thing that I was negligent not to ask our seniors, is there anything else we need from the town board? Is there something that you would like us to do?
If we do, we'll let you know.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sure. Go ahead, Jessica.
Yes.
Exactly.
If you look at the very last section, which is a chart on the camp charges in Dutchess County, I had said when we did the budget that you guys would be hearing from me in January regarding the pricing of summer camp. And this is an issue that we need to move on relatively quickly, because with our new software and the capability that we have, we can get these programs advertised earlier. We can allow sign-ups to start earlier. So that chart is all of our neighboring municipalities that were able to provide the information. translated into what our program is. So our program's a 7-week program. There are a lot of numbers out there on the websites when you look at these, but this is it directly translated into a program length comparable to ours and a pricing structure comparable to ours. So on the very last page, because alphabetically we came last, you'll see what we're currently charging for summer camp, for our base rate for summer camp. All right. It is significantly less, and we do like that. We like to be an affordable camp. I had this discussion 4 years ago. You know, we are trying to keep this to be an affordable program, but without changes to the fee structure for camp, the increase in loss that we had from 2017 to 2018 is only going to continue to grow based off of minimum wages going to keep going up for the next several years. All right. My proposal is to increase the fees by $50 again. Now, if we increased the fees by $50, we would come up with, and I did this based purely off of the exact number of kids that we had last year, who signed up for extended hours, who signed up a sibling. So I took the numbers from last year and added that $50 and came up with a revenue of $66,700, which is really close to what we spent on camp this year. So we know it's going to go up a little bit next year. We're trying to close the gap. And anything more than a $50 increase in a single year is unreasonable.
I appreciate that. I don't think, we're in a position tonight to decide by when do you need to have a number finalized so that we can have some further discussion with you. And
I would hope this to be on the next agenda because, again, the earlier we do this, the earlier we can begin registration. We usually don't begin registration until April under the old system. We can begin it a month sooner with the new system that we have to be able to do this. So,
Mike, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, certainly we can look at it. I mean, certainly I would prefer not to raise it if we can.
Always, yeah.
So that's my first preference. If you can give me the numbers to justify why you think it should be raised and the amount, then I certainly would consider it.
I think we'll all,
Yeah.
look at that. We need to look at that and have some discussion on that.
How long are these other programs? It says translated into 7 weeks to compare with the town of Wappinger.
Some of them are 6 weeks, some of them are 8 weeks. So what I did was I broke it down to what it would cost per week to go to their camp and then made it a 7-week program. So you're looking at it directly the same length of program as ours.
Now, you also, with the families that have multiple children go into the camps.
We do a sibling discount of $50 for each additional child that is on there.
And your pricing that you're talking about, that would also apply.
It does. It shifts all of the fee structure that we have up by $50. So first child that's going regular hours, up $50. Second child that's going regular, which was $50 less, will now be $50 more.
So between now and the next meeting, I guess you'll give us the reasonings behind the increase so we can consider whether or not that
And
would
then
be
we
the
can have
case.
some discussion.
Yeah, so I'd like it at least a week before the next meeting so we can have.
Just,
That's fine.
how many participants did you say were in our program?
In our program,
How many residents versus non-residents?
we only had 9 non-residents in camp, and there were 156 kids. So 156.
Total.
156 total, subtract 9.
Okay.
And
47. I know.
And once we get this settled, I mean, one of the things I asked for last year, I hope that we can kind of introduce it this year, is have some advertisements for these, maybe have some meetings here in Town Hall where residents can come and get a preview of what the program would be, so that if they were interested in it, I'd like to see that, hopefully before April, because I think now, at least from what I understand, is most parents now are starting to look into the summer opportunities and availability of programs for their children. So I think that we need to, by the beginning of the spring, have something in place where we could start having those types of forums and advertising so that,
We've had open houses in the past and they've been successful.
yeah, I'd like to do that again.
We've had nights where it's an open house. It is a little closer to the start of camp because part of what we like to integrate into these open houses is meeting with all the camp counselors. And they're not all back from college, until a little bit before. But that's been a really successful way to get signups is people come in, they meet the camp staff, they sit down, they do an art activity together, and
Okay.
I don't think anybody walked out the door without signing up.
And I was going to say, usually you have a program that you put together as far as what the camp program will consist of. Obviously, we'd want to have that by March too, so that we could start circulating as well. So when you do have these forums, that would be available then to have and to look at. And
is Cheryl going to be camp director again?
She is. We do have.
we'll want her
yeah.
involved.
Exactly, that's what I'm trying to say. So
We have a blessing this year that we haven't had in a couple of years, which is we have a returning camp director. Summer positions are notoriously hard to fill because people's life situations change, but we have a returning camp director, which is something we haven't had in 4 years.
And what is the, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Did you get any feedback from the residents, what they would like to see and what they don't want to see this year?
Well, it's interesting because it goes completely to both ends of the spectrum. The feedback that we get is some places or some families are looking for exceptionally structured programs. Okay, in a program like ours, they go, I don't know if that's structured enough. And then you have some on the other end who are going, it's summer camp. What do you mean? Go run around. So we try to integrate a happy medium of all of those different kinds of approaches to camp.
What is the maximum that you can, capacity at Marks Field that you can handle?
I currently, and this is, and Bob did the designs, I think you can actually fit over 200, or just about 200 kids.
Yep.
I feel most comfortable around 175 or 180, and the reason being is just cramming that many kids into a park. The pavilion may be built for a larger crowd, but you hit a point where it's too many people in one space.
It gets crowded when people get up.
Yeah, and I mean, not just under the pavilion, we're talking through the entire park as of the different parts of the program. It just gets to be a lot.
Well, my position on this is if we're going to entertain a 15% increase, which is not the first increase we've had in the last few years, we need to show an increase in value. And I'm certainly not against, exploring that if it's justified, but right now I need to be sold on that increase. So I look forward to your presentation as we get closer to spring.
and I was going to say basically that's why it'd be important to have at least a draft of some type of program, because part of why we might consider an increase is what we have to offer. And if we don't have that program together, at least a draft of it, it's really difficult for us to make that determination.
Parents to evaluate.
Yeah.
This is what we did, this is 2018, this is what we're going to do for 2019.
Yeah.
Here's the cost.
And something that I don't necessarily know whether this is something we'd want to make public, but I think when there are going to be questions about why we raised the camp fee, I do think it is worth pointing out to the residents, similar to the pie chart we have hanging, above the tax office, is how much the staffing costs have gone up outside of our control over a 3 to 4 year period.
But one of the things I will say, and I think I mentioned it last time as well, is that I think there should be some collaboration with the camp director. I think there might be ways to improve the program at very low cost. So even though you might not have to spend more money, you can give more value to the program. So I'm looking for things like that and for those types of suggestions.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think they're going to want to know where the money's going. They just know they're spending more money on it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's.
Okay, well, yeah, hopefully you can give us some of those suggestions and the draft of the program for the next meeting when we discuss the increase.
Yeah,
Just a question on the summer concert series, and Jim, you may have to look into this. The ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC fees we are paying are over $1,100 a season now, and that's the basically that's the licensing fees for the music that's being performed. I've dealt with those three entities before, and I'm curious to know if we need to pay those three agencies every single band that we have. I believe they're.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
They cover us for a year.
Right.
And what they base their pricing structure off of for government agencies, which is different.
I'm very familiar with what they do, and trust me, I would like to have legal counsel look at if we need to pay all three of those entities for every single band, because I'm in this business, and there are fees that my company pays once, okay, not for every single performance. So if you...
That's the breakdown. That's it, just being broken down on that spreadsheet of how much, when you take their annual fee, how much it spreads out across all those different
That seems to be more than we should be paying. I could be wrong, because I know how these entities work, but if we can just have Jim Horan take a look at these, and you're, Supervisor, you're very familiar with this process and how it can be misinterpreted in different municipalities. So if we could just look at that to do our due diligence and make sure we're not overpaying, because they certainly will not tell you.
No, of course not, no.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jessica. And again, thank you, our senior. Appreciate it very much. Okay, we'll now ask Sue Deo to come up and talk about code enforcement and your activities and give a review for us, please.
I promise I'll pack up quickly.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, oh, yeah.
You and I used to work together.
You?
Then when you do an audit and you find overpaid.
You don't get it back.
Very quick learning experience. Yes. Oh, I remember quite well.
Welcome. Good evening.
Susan. Today I'd like to give you an update on 2008 with our building department and going forward. Our building department started off in 2018 with 6 full-time and 2 part-time employees. We had 2 building inspectors, fire inspector, zoning administrator, a planning and zoning secretary, a full-time clerk, part-time clerk, and a part-time fire inspector. Starting in February, one of our building inspectors left for another job. Our fire inspector of 30 years retired. Our building clerk of 18 years retired, along with 2 part-time employees resigned. Since May of last year, we hired 2 new deputy building inspectors and 2 building clerks. We have yet to replace the fire inspector. I've been training the 2 deputy building inspectors while they've been going through monthly classes to get New York State Code certified, and 2 building clerks, and all 4 are working out very well, by the way. We're happy with that. I took it upon myself to start doing 1203 fire inspections because I couldn't ignore that they needed to be done. These inspections require 2 to 3 inspections because each one failed the first inspection. We need to bring the commercial and multifamily properties up to New York State safety standards. I'm proud to report that although our department had such a large turnover of employees in 2018, we were still able to process 1,150 applications, issue 1,339 building permits, which included 58 new homes. We issued 32 change of occupancies, that's 32 new businesses in the town. We closed out 1,096 building permits, and we've collected $32,500 in legalization fees. We have we did about 55 1203 fire inspections. We have a backlog of 2,055 expired building permits. Sounds like a lot, but a lot of them are just people forgot to call us and tell us, I have a final, can you come look at my shed? Electrical, some contractors also might have forgotten to call us for a final inspection. So right now we're working diligently on trying to get these expired building permits closed. So going forward, my goal in 2019 is to alleviate the backlog of the expired building permits, I have my building clerks sending out expiration notices the first week of every month to alleviate the future expired building permits, let people know ahead of time. People just don't know, call us and say, come on and close my permit. And I have our 2 deputy building inspectors starting weekly now, rotating. One deputy building inspector is going out, doing all the field work, while the other one's staying inside, going through all the files and processing all the expired building permits. The fire inspector's department is behind WSU by several years with 1203 inspections. I propose to catalog all the commercial town properties and the multifamily parcels this year in an Excel file in order to have a complete comprehensive list of properties that require a 1203 permit. This will help us keep us up to date going forward. There are well over 300 properties that require 1203 inspections. Those are the fire safety inspections. In closing, my department will continue to work diligently on closing out expired building permits and organized commercial and multifamily properties for the 1203 compliance inspection. That's my report.
Questions, folks?
So I have great concerns about the 1203s not being done. I know the fire inspector retired. I understand that it's been vacant for a number of months. What is the plan in the interim to be sure that those large occupancy buildings are being inspected? Do you have a schedule of these locations set up for 2019 at this point, or where do we stand?
So I do have applications going out to expired permits for the 1203s.
Okay.
Like I said, there's a backlog of more than several years
Okay.
that are expired. I have been going to these inspections on top of training my 2 deputies and the new clerks. And at this time, we're just doing all the 1203s that we can as they come in.
Right.
Processing it, going through the folders. I'm doing everything by code, so I'm trying to do it right. So going forward, it's the way the code says we have to do these inspections. So this takes a lot of time. I haven't passed one 1203 inspection yet because I'm being very stringent and making sure this is safety. I'm not just overlooking it and passing people just to get the numbers. I'm not going to do that. So we are taking care of them, but at least when they're done and they have their operational or assembly permit, I know after several inspections that it's safe.
Okay. How far off are the deputy building inspectors to being New York State certified?
They're certified as of December.
Excuse me? As of
December, they completed
December?
the 6 classes.
Do they need
They're
a,
all certified.
do they need a certain number of hours now, or?
Every year now, like myself,
Right.
24 hours of training.
Okay, so they're up and running, state certified. That's good. For the record, I believe we do need a fire inspector in this town. I've been in the fire department for 27 years, and we've never not had a fire inspector. I understand that your day-to-day responsibilities as a building inspector are considerable. I can see that here. The 2 deputy inspectors are very green, in my opinion. They may be state certified, but they're brand new. And I believe we need to attract and hire an experienced fire inspector for this town. And that will take much of the weight off your shoulders, I believe. But it should be someone who is experienced in doing fire inspections. I've been at a number of incidents in the last 2 weeks in this town, and 2 of them were in large facilities that I will talk to you outside this meeting about.
Yeah, I'd like to be told about them so I can act on it.
Well, there were no imminent safety situations present at the time of the incident, but there are some, as you know, there are some commercial establishments that need to be navigated in the right way on certain things.
That's why I'm trying to catch up. We're
Right.
several years behind on doing.
I think what's happening, Bill, is that when she's gone out, had to go out actually 3 times, because there were a lot of things that weren't done.
Right.
You know, all right, so that's the catch-up game that's being played, I think, as far as how to do it. It's just like, you know, one of the things that Sue had advised me of a while back is that I always forget the name of the apartments, but it's Crestview, you know, up in Montfort Road, you know.
Village Crest.
Village Crest, I always get it mixed up. But months ago, you know, Sue went out there and made them replace all of the carbon monoxide and smoke detectors. And fortunately, because of the incident over the weekend, it probably saved a lot of lives because of doing that, because they went off, otherwise they wouldn't have gone off.
70 smoke and CO detectors were replaced in October, 70. In apartments, it's 247 apartments. When I got there for the second call, because I got called out twice out there, all the CO detectors in the entire 20 apartment building was going off. Because they were new.
So what you're doing is the most you can possibly do with the number of hours you have in your day. So I'm interested in seeing how we as a board can work with you to improve upon the personnel that exist in that department so that we can, improve upon the safety in the town. I think that, I deal with a lot of other municipalities on a daily basis, and I firmly believe we are still better off than most, but we can always do better. No, seriously. I mean, that's the best way to say it. But that being said, Sue, my personal position, as I said, is I want to discuss with the town board at the appropriate time how we can attract and hire an experienced fire inspector to help allow you to focus on other things and have a person that doesn't really need to be trained, someone that has the experience to do these 1203s, because we talked earlier about different types of revenue that we budget for. And the time that it takes an inspector to do a 1203 is considerable, especially based on square foot. And that's how we have designed our permit fees for the 1203. So that alone, in the past, has justified the existence of personnel in those positions, and I'll be happy to explore that further at the appropriate time. Thank you.
Thank you for your due diligence.
Yep.
Thank you for prioritizing the safety of our residents.
Number one.
Yep.
Thank you.
To Sue's point, I think it would be beneficial to get the inventory of, the properties that need to be inspected, because that's the, and as Bill said, you can, in essence, make an estimate of how long the inspections will take. And that'll give you an indication of how many man-hours are needed.
We already have that plan, that they're starting on Route 9, and then also 376 and so forth. So that process and the plan has been created to go do a complete, we don't even know what station also, and what problem. So that's one of the positive things that I've seen, Sue, and also Barbara, and the folks have been working. So there is that plan now, and there's an execution plan that I think is really going to help us get a handle on that.
We also have to realize, though, that we are continuing to build inventory. So getting a handle on it is one thing, but we have 45 apartments being built right now on Route 9 at Old Hopewell Road. We have a potential major commercial project on Route 9 opposite Adams. So we have, catching up may not be feasible unless we explore hiring additional personnel. So I know it's got to be difficult working all day long and then saying it's already 4 o'clock and I haven't gotten halfway through what I wanted to get done. I know the feeling, and I'm going to help work with the board to try to find a solution for that.
If we had an experienced person in fire inspections, then I wouldn't have to train them.
Right.
I've been doing it for 9 months now, so.
Well, I appreciate what you've been doing. Let me just say that personally.
You all do.
Absolutely.
Right, I wasn't implying you didn't, but I do appreciate what you were doing, and I hope that when the time is appropriate, we can come to a agreement on how to proceed.
Yeah, I think, Bill, that we're all in agreement, including Susan and Barbara, that we do need to do something more in this area, and so I think that we'll talk about that. But the work that they've been doing, and I keep an eye on it very closely. Bob has, I know also Bob Gray, has been over there, has actually puts in a lot of time, and I think we need to, discuss that later too.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Susan. And also, thanks to Tony and Ball and everybody, the whole department. Okay, thanks. And the next item, I'm not going to really discuss at length. I just wanted to, as I've done some other things, to make the first proposal. Actually the recommendation of Nick D'Alessandro, who is the supervisor for East Fishkill. He said that he has somebody that's worked very well with his team and some other towns on providing media production services for a variety of things. And you can read and we'll talk about it more, actually. I've invited him to come in on the first meeting in February just to discuss. But I think as we move forward, and whether or not it's new equipment or it's how to capture, Jessica uses her iPad to try to capture some events. We don't have a good means to record and save and to do it somewhat professionally. So this gentleman's one. There may be others out there, but I thought it was an interesting proposal of how to do it. And we don't need to discuss it further now. You discuss it all fine, but you read it, and then I have invited him to come in February.
He works with,
The Fishkill.
East
He
Fishkill.
does the same thing.
East Fishkill.
East Fishkill, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I would be interested in exploring this. Also, I know Bob Lacola has done a lot of work in the town of Fishkill in his meeting room. I'd be curious to know his approach, but I coincidentally just happened to be watching a town of East Fishkill town board meeting the other night where the supervisor did give you a shout out, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I was really impressed with the quality and of the sound in the video. And I know they have newer equipment. It's based on the franchise agreement approval, which I know is something we're talking about right now. But assuming we have, new infrastructure, new equipment, and the ability to put together the types of things that they have done, I think that it really gives a fresh look to the, to the town meetings.
Yeah, I agree.
Be good to look at.
So, by the way, Jim, I don't want to put you on the spot. We're waiting for you to just finalize the exhibit or something for that franchise agreement, right? Okay. Yeah, there's just something relating to a couple locations and things that is just holding it up. The whole agreement based on also our discussion before and your authorization is already signed except for this.
Yeah, we just have to add, I believe it's March and one other property.
But we can get that done real quickly.
It would be nice.
We've been in transition and so.
No, we've been talking, in fact, I've been talking, Roger Connor called me yesterday, so.
It would be nice if we can have that ironed out and then be able to have this conversation.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So I think that's close, to getting that ironed out and done, and then get the new franchise agreement.
And then
signed.
the Verizon agreement is
Yeah,
expiring
that's the other one.
soon.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions, comments on that? Okay, so that's the last item that we have as far as reports, discussion items. I thought it was constructive there. And the next would be to move into resolutions that we have. So I think we can move into that, open that up for resolutions. And so the first resolution that we have is the resolution 2019-40. This is a resolution authorizing a refund of escrow for rain garden installation. This is Mid-Hudson Development Corporation and a return of $2,000 dollars that we had in escrow. And you have the resolution here. Barbara's here if you have any questions.
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? The motion passes. Next resolution is one of two relating to our baseball contract. This resolution is 2019-41. It's a resolution authorizing execution of an agreement between the town of Wappinger and the town of Wappinger Little League Association for baseball program. Myself, Jim Moran, we've been through the contract. We also had meeting and with the Little League president and actually had some very good discussion on areas to continue to look at. I know that there's been some also discussion with concerning our Challenger and Inspiration Field, which we'll have a separate discussion on that. This particular agreement, the real highlight is that it provides, as in the past, a stipend to the Little League of $6,000. This has already been budgeted in our budget of last year. So again, I reviewed it, and everything's in order with respect to the contract.
I'll move it.
All in favor?
Just on the question, if I may, is there a residency requirement within this agreement?
There is a residency reporting requirement.
Okay.
So there's a requirement that they have to, in essence, provide the town with a roster of, I don't believe, let's see,
There isn't a specific residency requirement. It says they have to reside within the boundaries set up by Little League, which is set up by the Little League organization based on school district and based on whatever. There are very few children that fall into that category of being outside the town of Wappinger.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions?
No.
Motion passes.
No.
The next item is Resolution 2019-42, and this is the resolution that Steve has proposed concerning the appointment of a full-time maintenance mechanic in Buildings and Grounds Department. If you turn to your resolution, it's actually filled in the blanks. We have had a few blanks there that Steve has provided to us, and I believe provided to the town clerk, or not yet? Okay. So the name here is Walter Erickson, Erickson, and then it's effective January 30th, proposed to be effective January 30th, to be compensated at hourly rate of $24.73. And then, actually, for your information, this is from A7110.0107, Bill.
And just for the record, it's my understanding that you interviewed him and you're recommending him to fill his position, correct? Mr. Frazier?
That's correct. Sorted through 21 applications, and combination of qualifications and location are selected him.
Okay.
Actually,
He actually lives here in town, about 5 minutes away.
Okay.
What Steve has mentioned, he had a number of outstanding candidates, actually.
That's correct.
I was quite pleased with the response.
Oh, good. Good, I'm glad to hear it.
Now, is this the position there was an issue with the budget on, or is this a separate?
Correct. This is the position that we spoke about and created as a more skilled position than what we've been hiring in the past.
But his concern that he had raised with me, maybe discussed with you, Bill, that we actually intentionally eliminated a position. Is that right, Steve?
That's correct. Councilman Beal and I need to get together and discuss how we're going to work that out.
But that's not this position?
No.
That's not
All right,
this one.
okay.
This one's okay, yeah.
Now, this is a civil service position, or?
it's a non-competitive position under civil service. So the only thing that we have to certify is that
That he meets the qualifications.
The minimum qualification, 1-year work experience, so.
So he meets the qualifications, he'll be qualified by civil service, there'll be a probationary period, correct?
6 months.
And then he'll be in the position.
Right.
Okay.
And then for, he doesn't get Section 75 rights until he's in for 5 years.
For how long?
5 years.
5 years, but he's union, correct?
Correct.
All right, okay.
But we are eliminating somebody, another position in your area?
I'm sorry?
We're eliminating another position in
I don't know if that's going to be the end result. I need, somehow, one of the year-round laborer positions got cut back to a seasonal position in the shuffle there at the end. Looking to meet with Councilman Williams and see if we can work something out to restore that. If not, I may need to take another seasonal position and combine it to the one to make the full-time labor position year-round.
You'll let us know.
Right.
Yeah, it's going to have to be a resolution. If it could be something as simple as a budget correction. I remember when we had our budget meeting here and had our discussions, everything seemed to be in place. Inadvertently, it might have been calculated wrong. I don't know.
I think that's what happened, something like that, Bill, so we'll look in it, and Steve is going to talk with you.
It's in budget.
Yeah, the position may exist in the budget, but it may be $0. That might be the problem. So I don't see it as a major, a heavy lift. I think we can fix it, but we just need to do it in an orderly way with a resolution.
Because, I think that now Steve has a good list of full candidates.
Sure.
And I think it would be great to try to get another one on board, but I agree with you, Bill. We just need to look at that and fix it if that's the case.
So
Okay.
for the purposes of 42, I'll move it.
Okay. Second?
So I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions?
No.
The motion passed.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Yeah, the next item is Resolution 2019-43. This is a resolution proposing the adoption of the Town of Wappinger volunteer policy. I've had some discussion with Councilwoman Bettina, and if you'd like to have a little bit further discussion with the board, executive session or something about that, so.
Yeah, just it needs to be tweaked a little bit. It's a good
So,
policy, but I think as a whole, we should be discussing it.
I guess.
Motion to table?
Motion to table.
Motion
But
to
I
table.
really do want to move this along.
It's important. I agree with you. It's very important, and I think as a whole, we can provide valuable information to
You
make
want
it
to
even
second the
better.
motion?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Motion to table. Passed. The next resolution, 2019-44, is a resolution authorizing the execution of agreement between the town of Wappinger and the Wappinger Yankees collegiate baseball team. These are the adult men game team that plays on the Brian Holt Field.
I'll second that.
Well, I'll make the motion.
Oh, you make the motion.
Second. I would like to say, and as a result of negotiation, we got them to increase, $1,000, up to $3,000 that they would, pay us, for that field. So, we were able to do that. Now, in connection also with that, then, Steve has been asked to look at one as also baseball netting, at the backstop. They don't want to keep losing the balls
Right.
going out in the field, and also some fence repair, but, and overall, eventually, we need to look at lights. But right now, I think it's pretty manageable, just a couple things for Steve to do. So we have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? None. The motion passes. The next resolution is 2019-45. This is a resolution setting the calendar of special events for the Town of Wappinger Recreation Department for 2019. Those are the ones that are going forward from here. So do I have a
I'll move it.
motion?
I'll second it.
On the question, I see Community Day listed as July 5th through the 7th. Is that correct?
Yes.
So, I had tentative approval. I still have to finalize the discussion, but it looks like that's moving along.
Oh, great. That's great news.
Yeah, and just some other news, but we don't
Yes.
want to.
Executive session news.
Yeah, we can talk about that. Okay, so it seems to be making good progress.
Yep.
Okay, motion, second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions?
No.
None, the motion passes. The next item is Resolution 2019-46. This is an order calling for a public hearing for the establishment of the Fernia Drainage District in Wappinger, Dutchess, County, and that's some material we have. Barbara, do you want to make any comments about that? About great.
This subdivision was approved at the planning board, so this is the last thing that we're.
Yeah, this is a subdivision, you see the road, Mr. Fernie is here tonight.
Yes.
On New Hackensack Road on the Swenson Farm, part of the Swenson Farm, new road going in, lots of the detention pond in the back, and this district will be responsible for the maintenance of that detention pond as well as the roadside swales, and there are some rain gardens on some of the properties, which are small detention areas where the downspouts from houses basically pull back water.
On the resolution, there's a gap with the maximum estimated cost of improvements.
There's a blank here.
It's blank. There's a blank on the resolution regarding whereas the maximum estimated cost of said improvements is,
X dollars.
I'll have to look at that. I did not prepare the document. We do have a bond, that number is bonded.
Barbara, do you have any idea on that blank? We'd like to.
I can,
We can fill it in. For some,
it was in the bond, that was the question you had, it's in the
Yeah.
bond.
okay.
Bernie, do you have any idea?
It's in the bond. I didn't bring the bond with me. If you have the bond with you, I can pull it out.
1350.
I do have the bond, actually.
Great.
Let me grab that up, too.
Okay, great, sure. No, that's the cost,
no, by the way,
that's the O&M cost for it.
It's the actual construction cost of the improvements.
No, all right.
It should be in the,
Shane's got the bonds. Give me a moment, do you have another item of business you can move to, or you want to?
We can move to, or while you're doing that, resolution 2019-47 on correspondence.
I'll move to
I'll
adopt that.
second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? That motion passed.
for, just for,
Oh, yeah, no, it's,
When-
yeah, we tabled that already at the
No
beginning, yeah, yeah. We said that at the beginning of the meeting, maybe we didn't make it clear, but,
Sorry.
no, we probably didn't make it clear for you, we apologize. But we did say something to that effect at the beginning.
Go ahead with your recording. So Bob, your copy of it?
Yes, I'll have it for you in a moment.
so just for the boards, this number is, the cost of the improvements is being borne by the developer. So it's not being paid for by the district residents. But the resolution requires the cost of the constructions, even though it's not going to be passed on to the district users at the end. It will be in the cost of the property, but it's not.
Ready? The number is $56,500. Thank you, Shane. Yeah, this number came out of, we had to do a bond estimate. In other words, all the work is bonded before MAP can be approved. So those calculations were done as part of the bond, so I just pulled out those numbers and quickly added. Thank you.
Shane, thank you. Thank you very much.
As quickly as I can.
Okay, well, I guess then that we will have a motion to go into executive session.
We didn't
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, you're right, okay, so do I have a motion on the Fernie
I'll make a
resolution
motion.
with the addition of the 56,000?
I'll make a motion.
Second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Motion passed, thank you.
I'll make a motion to go into executive session.
Just for the record, the Fernier public hearing is scheduled for February 11th, 2019.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions?
No.
Okay, the motion passed. Thank you. Okay, folks. Coming on back out of executive session, do we have a motion to?
Make a motion to come out of executive session.
I'll second it.
Second. I will state, since our counsel wasn't there, but I was legal counsel in the sense that there were no decisions made, no judgments or what have you that came out of that meeting. So, we're copacetically clean, I think.
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? The motion passed. Okay, so what is the next item on the agenda? We're not on the agenda.
I'd like to state that effective immediately, I will be resigning from the town of Wappinger as councilman in Ward 3 and as deputy town supervisor. I'm doing so solely because I am relocating from the area and will no longer be eligible to be a councilman in the town of Wappinger. This is not motivated by any political agenda or frustration. Serving for the past year has given me the opportunity to get involved in many town projects that I'm certain will be continued by this board. It's been a pleasure to work with Dr. Thurston, whom I've gotten to know and like, and hopefully to have our personal friendship continue.
And I told him I'm going to call him up as a consultant.
I'm sure he'll appreciate that.
No, Mary doesn't appreciate that.
Mary don't appreciate that. I'm also hopeful that the personal political sniping at Dr. Thurston will end, and this will allow him and this administration to do their job free from this childish distraction. I'm also hopeful I will continue my friendship with Mike Cosmet and Angela Bettina. I'd like to say that much good work was done and will continue to be done by this town board. I'm grateful to the residents of the 3rd Ward who elected me to this post. I've enjoyed serving the people in the town of Wappinger and continuing my public service to its residents. I've tried to serve to the best of my abilities and doing what I felt was right for the town and its residents. I would also like to say that it's my recommendation that this board appoint Mr. Chris Phillips as my replacement, as I feel it would allow for a smooth transition in this administration. Thank you and goodbye.
And so you have a written letter to the town clerk. I believe, Jim Horan, that's proper, or what's the process to do from this point?
So a town officer is, except for the town clerk, all town officers who resign from their position would tender a written letter of resignation to the town clerk.
Yeah.
So if the town clerk wants to acknowledge receipt of it in the minutes.
I acknowledge receipt of
Well, I'd like to say something.
Before you do.
Okay.
Okay. I would like to read for the board's approval a resolution, which I have a certificate that I prepared, and this is the town board recognition. Bob, this is accepting the resignation and recognizing the service of Councilman Robert A. Johnson. Whereas Councilman Robert A. Johnson was elected to the town board of the town of Wappinger and has served honorably in this capacity, and whereas Councilman Robert A. Johnson also served the town of Wappinger as the appointed deputy supervisor to me over the course of his tenure, and whereas Councilman Robert A. Johnson has served the town of Wappinger with great distinction and dedication, and now therefore be it resolved, Councilman Robert A. Johnson is moving outside the municipal boundaries of the town of Wappinger and has submitted his resignation to the town of Wappinger and its board. Now therefore be it further resolved, the town board acknowledges and reluctantly accepts the resignation of Councilman Robert A. Johnson. And now therefore be it further resolved, the town board acknowledges that Councilman Robert A. Johnson has served his community with great distinction and dedication, and wishes him many years of happiness in his next chapter of his life, and commends him for his devoted service to the town. Signed by myself, Dr. Richard L. Thurston, Wappinger Town Supervisor. Do I have a motion?
I'll move that.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? No. Absolutely not. This is for you, Doctor. Thank you. And take a picture. Also, I know it's late, but Joey, bring in the cart.
And I was going to say before.
Go ahead, say.
Yeah, I was going to say before you go, Bob, I want to say a few things. First of all, I'm certainly sorry to see you go. We've worked a number of years together. I'd like to say that I'm one of the people that are instrumental in getting you to the position you're in, because I was the first person who sponsored you to originally be on the ZBA and started your community service in this town. And since then, we worked well together for a number of years. We've done a lot of good things for the town, and I was honored to serve with you on this board. I really am sorry to see you go, but we do thank you for everything you've done, and you will be missed. I will say that your recommendation holds great weight with me. And because of the fact that you make the recommendation that your replacement should be Chris Phillips, I will certainly make a motion to appoint Chris Phillips to this board to be your replacement. I do believe that we need the continuity to have somebody on this board right away to start working right away for the rest of his term to make sure that we continue the functioning of this town in a proper and uniform manner. So I'll make that motion to appoint Chris Phillips.
A question of, for process here, proper procedure. Mr. Rand, is that appropriate at this time, or do we have to wait till the next meeting?
It would be if, again, Mr. Johnson's resignation was effective immediately, so there's a vacancy. So, he would not be able to participate in the vote.
No. Now, I know we have another resident who's in attendance that's also has expressed an interest to being considered.
So, again, there's nothing in the statute that requires any sort of period of time. Should the board wish to evaluate other candidates, it's certainly their prerogative to do so.
I make a second to appoint Mr. Phillips.
Any other discussion?
No, I think it's a temporary appointment. We'll be having an election in November, but until then, Mr. Johnson did win that seat, and I think that based upon his recommendation, that's sufficient for me to fulfill that spot in the interim.
And I would like to thank Bob. We started out together. We won. We worked well together. And I will miss you, and I will miss you, Mary. I wish you the best of luck, best health, enjoy. And I heard you have rooms for us.
Yes, yeah.
If we ever want to come down and visit, but in sincerity, thank you for all your help, your camaraderie, and it was a lot of fun, and you will be missed. And Chris, we're going to have fun. So thank you and welcome.
So there's been a motion and second. Councilman Beal, would you like to say something?
Just on the question, for the purpose of a discussion, thank you, Bob, for your service to this community and also, again, to your community that you previously serviced for a number of decades as a law enforcement officer. Appreciate your service there. And I do appreciate your recommendation for Mr. Chris Phillips to continue the service that you have provided to this town. I will be supporting that nomination this evening. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? The motion passed.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
Sure may. But we have cake.
But we have cake.
Would it be, point of order, Mr. Supervisor, would it be appropriate for Councilman Phillips to be sworn in at this time?
Yes.
I assume it
Yeah.
can be done.
Yep.
Unless our
No.
town council has anything else
No.
to say.
Mr. Phillips?
I would just like to see that done on the record. Thank you.
Yeah. Face here. No, face up toward the board.
Well, how are we going to do that?
Oh, okay, that's all right, that's fine.
I, Chris Phillips, do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of Councilman Ward 3 to the best of my ability. So help me God.
Thank you.
All right.
Make sure you sign the book. Make sure you sign the book.
Go ahead. Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nays or abstentions, motion passed.
Pleasure's all mine.
You really, and you don't like it, and you like
Anybody wants cake?
and you like everything. Put thing.
If not, we can eat it tomorrow instead.
I'll be bouncing off the wall. If I have any.
Do a ceremonial cutting of the cake. Take a picture. I'll eat a slice.
Yeah, I'll give it to Chris.
Yeah, we'll have a ceremonial.
I was partially
Chris. So, where's Bob? Bob, you know, we want you to do cutting of the cake, and then it says here, you know, sign for you.
That's all that could fit on the cake when I went, so. Joe.
At least we got the meeting over early.
I had it planned to try to be at 11 o'clock.
You did good.
So it's a little bit off. It's just because of his questions in the.
His questions.
Come on, smile.
Wait a second. One more. Okay, folks. Smile. Okay, very good. Thank you.
You want a picture with Bob?
Okay, I'll get one picture of Bob since
You don't have to take pictures. They'll end up on Facebook tomorrow. There we go.
Okay.
Very good.
I will have a ceremony.
Wait, let's get a picture of the whole board.
Yeah. Hey, Bob, Bill, come on down. A picture of the whole board.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, I know. Oh, no. I know. Chris, get over here. Let me take this coat off.
Let's get this straight. All right. Let's try to get it even here. So, Bill, go down that way. All right.
Here you go, man.
Yeah. Go that way. No, to your right. That way.
Should be here, Bob's in the middle. Right, we should flag that a little bit.
Where do you want me to go?
Well, you can sit there.
All right, there we go. Now we're nice and even. All right. Okay, very good.
Wait, one more.
One more, two more. Okay?
All right, very good.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Good.
All right.
Very good.
Okay, good work.
Just
Who wants to?